Hello, it's Lisa here from Holistic Health by Lisa Moan, and this week I'm going to be talking about everyone's favourite topic, and that is worms, intestinal worms that your child might get. So next week we're going to be talking about hair tissue mineral analysis. So that's a very, very popular test that I do, especially with children, although I do it with adults as well. And it just involves cutting off a piece of hair and sending it off for analysis. And it shows if your child is deficient in things like zinc or magnesium. And more interestingly as well, it shows if your child has any toxic levels of any heavy metals or any toxins in their body that they're trying to excrete, and it comes out through their hair. So next week I'll be explaining about all the ins and outs of that. So it's in particular, it'd be very relevant if your child has autism, ADHD or anxiety. So if that's you, definitely listen next week and find out about hair tissue mineral analysis. So tonight I'm talking about worms, and definitely if you've got any questions as I'm going along, please just pop them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't be embarrassed, because I think worms is like having nits. It's one of these things that nobody really wants to talk about. But lots and lots of people suffer from recurrent worms, because I talk to them in clinic. So don't feel that you're on your own and this is a problem that only affects you. It's really, really common, but there are lots of things that you can do about it, which we will talk about now. So, getting worms it's a normal part of childhood. I would say most kids at some point do get worms, and that's fine. But it's like catching a cold. You should be able to catch a cold and then 2 days later you're better. But what happens with a lot of children is they get worms and they get treated, and then a month later they get worms and they get treated, and a month later they get worms, they get treated, and they just end up in a cycle where they just really can't get rid of the worms. So that's what we're talking about tonight. It's not, oh, my child had worms once 2 years ago and we took Combantrin and now we're good. You're good, you don't need to worry about that. But it's for those people who really can't get rid of them. So you really need to have a three-pronged approach when it comes to worms. So you need to get rid of them to start off with. So you can treat them with pharmaceutical medication, so just the stuff, the chocolate squares that everybody knows that you get in the chemist, or you can use herbs. So it's really up to you. Both are, valid options. You need to do some cleaning and lifestyle changes, which we'll talk about in a minute, to make sure that they're not living in your sheets or on your toilet seat or whatever, so you're treating them and then they're coming back again. And then the third thing you need to do is really make your child's gut as strong as possible and make the immunity of the gut as strong as possible. So even if they do come in contact with worms, that they can fight them off and the worms don't sort of settle in and set up home in their intestines. So threadworms, what are they? Well, we call them threadworms usually, but some people call them pinworms, and the technical term is Enterobius vermicularis. So they're all the same thing, and they look like white thread, so like very thin white thread, just about a centimetre long, and they do live in your large intestine, but then they come out at night. And when they come out at night, they lay eggs around your child's bottom. And the glue that they use to stick those eggs onto your child is itchy, makes your child's bottom itch. So that's why one very common symptom of having a threadworm infestation is having an itchy bottom. But that's not the only symptom, and your child can have worms and not have an itchy bottom. Plus, an itchy bottom can mean lots of other things. So it can mean that your child has some nutritional deficiencies, that they've got thrush, that they've got a strep infection, or they could just get irritated by your toilet roll. So the itchy bottom isn't the only clue. Other things that you might want to look out for is irritability. And because a child with worms is never getting a good night's sleep, because they're always coming out to play every nighttime, so your child will get irritable because they're not getting enough sleep. You might find that your child's appetite reduces because they've kind of got discomfort in their tummy, so they can actually have tummy pain as well associated with the threadworms. And they can grind their teeth. So again, it's just that sort of low level irritation all night long makes them grind their teeth. So if you're co-sleeping with your child or you're checking on them in the middle of the night and you see them grinding their teeth or hear them grinding their teeth, that can be a sign that they have worms. Having nightmares, being very restless in their sleep and calling out can be a sign. And in little girls, if they're having frequent urinary tract infections, it could actually be a threadworm infection, because anatomically everything is very close together in girls. So when the little worms come out to play at night, they might, wander off in the wrong direction. So if your child has frequent urinary tract infections or thrush, but nothing is showing up when they do the urine test, that could be what it is. It could actually be that the worms have migrated, and that's tricky to treat because the combantrin and things like that you take are really only working in your gut, so it's definitely harder to treat once they've migrated. And an interesting little fact is that quite often appendicitis or like inflamed appendices can be because of threadworm infestation. So, when the surgeon operates and takes out the appendix, they can see that it actually had worms in it. So that's just gross. And of course, if your child leaves their poo in the toilet and they have threadworms, you may be able to see them actually wriggling around. Whatever you do at the end of this, please don't start sending me photos of your child's poo to see if I can identify threadworms in it, because people have done that in the past, and sometimes the poo will actually look like it's moving because there's so many threadworms in it shaking out about. So don't do that. The actual gold standard to find out if your child has worms is called the sticky tape test. So that means before your child goes to sleep at night, you need to take a little piece of sticky tape and stick it on their bottom, on their anus, right up against the skin. And then you just leave it there overnight. And when the child wakes up in the morning, you very carefully peel it off, make sure nothing falls off it, and you can examine it and see if eggs have been laid on it. And if you do that 6 nights in a row, that's 95% reliable as a test for threadworms. So do that 6 times in a row. Make sure that you're very careful in the morning when you peel it off, that you don't drop any of the eggs. And if after 6 nights there's nothing there, then you can pretty much say that they don't have threadworms, so their symptoms are something else. And of course, if you do have eggs, then it shows that they do have threadworms and you can treat that. Another test that you can do, which is a bit of a test by proxy, is you can do a stool test with your GP, so a poo test. Just get your child to poo into one of the little specimen jars. And the test doesn't look for threadworms, but it looks for another parasite called Diantomoeba fragilis, which is kind of like best buddies with threadworms. So if your child tests positive for Diantomoeba, you can think that maybe they have threadworms as well. So it's not 100% accurate, it's more just of a clue, another guide. So once you've actually worked out that your child has threadworms, what do you do? So you have to treat the worms, and you're better off to treat the whole family when you do that. And if it's the first time, just use the combantrin, but you need to make sure that you take it every 4 weeks for 4 months. So every 2 weeks for 4 cycles. So do it at 0 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and 6 weeks. And if you can line it up with the lunar cycle, with the moon, that's even better. So you're treating on the full moon, because they're an animal, so they come out at the full moon to multiply. So if you can time it with that, you'll get even better results. And to enhance the effectiveness of that medication, you can do other things at the same time, like give your child probiotics or lots of fermented foods. Garlic is brilliant. Carrots are brilliant. So make foods. I have a recipe on my website, and it's called Gut Busting Soup, and it's got cloves, garlic, oregano, carrots in it. So if you make your child that to eat it every day, then they're getting all those natural anti-parasitic foods, which will enhance the treatment if you're using pharmaceuticals. I also use little herbal tablets with kids as well, which tastes like, they're called Fruit Zingle, and they taste quite good. Like, kids don't mind taking them at all, and they have herbs in them that will work against parasites. But if you've gone through this process repeatedly over and over and over again, and your child has had Combantrin like 10 times, it probably won't work anymore because they get resistant. Just the same way bacteria will get resistant to antibiotics, the worms will get resistant to the medication. So then you definitely need to look at herbs. And if the herbs don't work, then you need to look at something else, which I supply to people, which you have to mix into water and take it every day for quite a few months. But that gets rid of it sort of longer term. So any questions at all on this, just pop them in the comment section. I'll try and answer them as I go along. So the next thing, once you've treated the worms and you've treated the whole family with whichever method you prefer, then you need to look at some cleaning and lifestyle type of things. So first thing is no baths. So for at least a week, nobody has a bath, but they have a shower at night time and in the morning. So on a shower, like individual shower for a week. People who may touch their bum during the night, so you could decide what with your child if that's likely to happen, then they need to wear like a onesie, undies, a pull-up, like taped on, whatever you can do to stop them touching their bottom during the night. Because as I said, the eggs get stuck to the skin with a sticky, itchy glue. The kids itch that, and then in the middle of the night they're itching their bottom, and then they're sucking their hands, and that's what's perpetuating the life cycle. So you need to stop them being able to touch their bottom, and you can do whatever you have to do that. You could even make them, gloves wouldn't work, but yeah, just put them in undies and a onesie for that. You can also put Vaseline on their bottom because that makes it less itchy, so they're less likely to unconsciously be touching their bum. Then you need to take all your sheets, this is a real pain, sorry, but you need to take all your sheets and pillowcases and very carefully bundle them up and wash them in a hot wash. And once you've dried them, like dry them out in the sun and then tumble dry them for 10 minutes to make sure you kill everything. So you want to be doing that to all your sheets and all your towels, every second day for a few weeks. And that's really to break the life cycle, to make sure your child's not getting reinfected because there's something lurking on the towels or on the sheets. Then you need to vacuum the rooms in case there's any eggs on the floor. You need to clean underneath the toilet seats. Again, you can use things like clove oil for that, which is, pretty stinky and will kill anything that's living there. Cut their fingernails very, very short. So again, if they are scratching, nothing can live or get trapped underneath their fingernails. And that's about it. So absolute pain in the butt. But if you do that really religiously for a week or two, it really helps to break the cycle. And then the last thing you need to do is you need to look at your child's overall gut health. So you need to see the bigger picture and realise that if your child's gut was really, really strong and the terrain was really, really good, then the threadworms wouldn't be able to set up shop. They would kind of come and go very quickly. So to do this, there's a lot of talk about gut health and a lot of, fancy solutions, but really what you want to do is just have a really whole food diet for your child with no processed foods. So lots of nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, high quality protein, and very little in the way of packaged and processed foods. So that's probably going to be a difficult transition for a lot of people, and it might be hard to see the immediate rewards for that, but they will definitely come. To make it easier, I do have meal plans on my website which you can download. I'll post the link below, and therefore it's a paleo style diet, so it's all natural whole foods. So if your child eats like that for a few months, their gut will get stronger and then they'll be less likely to get reinfected. So that's kind of the number one thing that you need to do. Then other things that you can do, but the food is the most important, is give your child lemon in water in the morning before breakfast, and that will just help stimulate their digestion. Just make sure they don't brush their teeth for about half an hour before or after that, because it can damage the enamel if you do. And make sure your child drinks heaps of filtered water just to keep everything moving. So, as much filtered water as they could, good quality filtered water. Don't go to bed on a full stomach, so make sure there's an hour or two before their dinner, after their dinner, before they go to bed can be very helpful. And don't let them drink water with a meal. So I often meet parents who are really proud because they're making sure their child drinks, several cups of water with their dinner. But that's actually not a good thing to do because that's diluting your digestive juices. So you need to drink the water between meals, but not during meals. So you want the digestive juices to stay undiluted. So no beverages, no drinks during meals. And so those are the main things, but then you can also go another step and add in probiotic foods like sauerkraut, kefir, kombucha. All those things again are going to add to the diversity in their gut, which is going to make them less susceptible to get worms. So if you are struggling and you've done all of those things and you still can't get rid of them, please give me a shout, because there is one last thing that you can do to get rid of them, which I often do with my little clients who can't get rid of worms. So as I said, if you do want to improve your child's diet but you're not sure how, have a look at my paleo meal plans, and don't assume that your child won't like the food, because quite often kids do love the real food and their appetite sometimes surges, which might be not a benefit. But some people find that when they move from a processed food diet to a whole food diet, their child suddenly eats more because they know that they're getting the nourishment from the food, so their appetites really explode and then they grow quite quickly. So next week I'll be talking about the hair tissue mineral analysis. So this is especially relevant if your child has autism, ADHD, anxiety, or any other behavioural concerns, or if you know they've been exposed to some toxins because of where they live or what they've been exposed to. So that test is really, really useful. So tune in next Monday at 7:30 p.m. and I'll be explaining all about that. I'd love also if you have any suggestions of topics that you would like me to talk about, please post them below, because obviously I'd love to be talking to you about the things that you want to hear about. Makes it more worthwhile. So feel free to post those or send me a private message about topics if you don't want to post below, but do not send me a private message of your child's poo. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again next week. Bye.